Hey everyone, so I just wanted to let you all know that this video is actually my first 4 videos put together. I wanted to go through, add some music over the top of them, just make them look a bit better, sound a bit better as well. I do hope that you enjoy. For those wanting more Batman videos, which is usually people that have been watching me for a while now, I am going to be adding more Batman videos soon. So hopefully you guys will enjoy those when I put them out. Make sure to look out for them. Consider subscribing if you want to see more Batman videos or just more videos from me. We're really close to hitting 1,000, so any support's appreciated. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and please excuse the awful quality.
In today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 best villains in the Batman Arkham series. I don't want to waste your time, so we are going to get straight into the video. At number 5, I have Scarecrow. A lot of people love Scarecrow. The reason I have him at the number 5 spot is because he's only in half of the games, and he is kind of, but not really, the main villain in Arkham Knight, but he's not written the best, and you can actually see within Arkham Knight, Batman could have beaten him multiple times if it wasn't for the Joker hallucination going on. So he doesn't look particularly strong in that game, and in Arkham Asylum, he's not really a massive he's not important to the story all that much. As I said, boss fights and stuff like that don't really matter in this video. His boss fight is cool in that game, or I should say boss fights, but you know, his actual character doesn't need to be in that game. There's no massive, plot points based around him that much. He's usually just a little not a side mission, but like a side activity that stops Batman from doing something in Asylum. In saying that though, I've literally just shit-talked his character, but I do love his character in these games. As I said, it's just those things are holding him back from being any higher on the list. So in 4th, I have Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is one of only a few villains to be in all 4 games. The reason that I can't put her any higher is just because as a character, I don't like her that much, but in saying that, in these games, I do think she's pretty good. She is voice acted very, I don't really know the term for it, but the actor does a good job with the character. And as I said, she's been in all the games, and I think she usually doesn't play a massive role. It's usually only in regards to the Joker and acting on his behalf, or, when he dies. She's really only in the story to get revenge for his death, so she is very dependent on the Joker, so she doesn't really have her own story. In saying that, we do see some character development in Arkham Origins, and that goes for Joker as well. But, as I said, most of her story is to do with the Joker, so I can't really give her a higher placement than 4th. Now, in the 3rd spot, I'm putting Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze was technically in all of the games except for Asylum. The reason I put him in this spot is because I think his character has grown a lot from City all the way up to Night. I think he's had a lot of character development, and I think his ending in Arkham Knight is actually very sweet. And for those who don't know, if you complete his mission last, as in the last thing in the whole game, you can get like a Gotham that's all covered in snow, which is a really nice look. And that's really all I have to say about Mr. Freeze. I think that he's just written very well. Again, not talking about boss fights, but he had the best one in Arkham City, arguably the best in the whole series, or just in gaming as a whole. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about Mr. Freeze. I just think that he grew a lot as a character, and we see that the reason he acts the way he does is only to, I guess, save his wife, or his wife is already, gone, but he's doing everything he does to get her back, and that's a very sweet motive. And when you look at it, he's not really a villain. And even though this video is called the top 5 best villains, I did include him in this list because he does pose as a threat to Batman in these games. We do fight him in all 3 of the games that he's in, but in all of them we see he's not really a villain. In the number 2 spot, this one was difficult because this character is amazing in one game and terrible in the other game or games that he's in, and that's Bane. I am only going to be talking about Arkham Origins Bane, not Asylum or City. because he's terrible in those games. That will probably be in the video for the worst villains. But Arkham Origins, it's different. He goes from a bit of a doofus, bit of a klutz in Arkham Asylum and City, where he's sort of just written as just a massive dingus. Like, he has no brain, he's just the strong one that runs at walls and just fucking murders henchmen. And he just didn't really have any character. He was just the big muscly guy. And then in Origins we actually get a more accurate depiction of him, where we see he isn't, all those things I just called him. And they also sort of explain why he acts like that in those games, like how he became that way. And we see, like, he's actually a very smart dude, which of course means, or at least in my opinion, it makes him one of, if not maybe the most dangerous threat to Batman in Origins, because not only is he bigger than Batman, Batman's not like an experienced fighter yet, as in he is, but he's not as experienced as he will become later on in his career. He's new to this Batman thing, and Bane is much, thicker, taller, and arguably smarter, or equally as smart. So that makes him harder for Batman to defeat, and we see him do extreme damage to Alfred in the Batcave. He finds out Batman's identity. Like, he is a massive threat to Batman, but as I said, only in Origins. So I'm only discussing Origins. So Asylum and City, as I said, that is not counted here. This is solely just because of how good I think he was in that game. Alright, number one, I'm pretty sure you all saw this coming. It has to be the Joker. Now, I will actually critique the Joker in these games before I explain why I like him so much in these games. So for one, he's overused. He shouldn't have been in Origins or Arkham Knight, but I will say he is used well in all of the games. Of course, Mark Hamill is amazing in the role, and the character itself obviously fits the world very well. He is a very good villain for Batman, whether that's in the Arkham games or not. He's always the most interesting villain in Batman's whole catalogue. As I said, he is number one. Obviously, I can't really put anyone else above him, mainly because of Mark Hamill's performance, because he's in all the games, and just because he's a very iconic character. He's easily the most iconic Batman villain. In saying that, I do feel as if it's a bit of a cop-out to put him at number one, so I will give you a couple of little honourable mentions. So my honourable mentions are Poison Ivy, Deathstroke, and Ra's al Ghul. These characters all appeared in between 2 to 3 of the games, and the reason that they didn't make the list is because I either just liked these characters in the top 5 more, or I just thought that they weren't written well enough to make it onto the list, or as I said, they just aren't in enough games. So they just missed out. And Deathstroke was very close, however his appearance in Arkham Knight was trash, it was terrible, and his appearance in Origins was amazing, and that's why, or at least I think it was. So he was very, very close to making the list. But yeah, that's about it for the video. Next I'll be looking at the worst villains and doing other Batman Arkham videos, so stay tuned for that. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome everyone to my second video on the Batman Arkham series. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 worst villains in the Arkham series. I made a video on the best villains a couple days ago, so if you haven't seen that one, please check it out after this one, or see that before this one. Doesn't particularly matter, but I appreciate any support. And with that being said, let's get straight into number 5. So the 5th worst villain, in my opinion, is actually going to be Hush. Now, the reason I put him at 5 is because he isn't a main villain in any of the games. He is a side mission in City and Night, and what he set up in City was very, very cool. Of course, we had the side mission where you were finding, bodies with bits of their face missing, which of course is a pretty, compelling case for Batman to follow. And then of course we meet him and he has Bruce Wayne's face. But then when we get to Arkham Knight, his side mission is so disappointing, and they could have taken a lot of different story elements in certain directions and made a very interesting story between
the characters, as in Hush and Batman. But unfortunately, that isn't really what happened. We just, rock up to Wayne Manor and we beat his ass. So it's very, I don't want to say lazy, but it's just he's a character that they could have done a lot more with. It's not more so that he's bad, it's just more so that he's very disappointing. So next up at number 4, I actually have Killer Croc. And Killer Croc is actually a character I really like. But in the Arkham games, I thought that he wasn't done the best. So we see him very, very briefly in City. Of course, his main appearances were in Asylum and Origins. In Origins, and you could say the same for Asylum, I thought that the boss fight that he had in both those games was pretty good, but he wasn't in the story for a lot of it, especially in Origins, where we see he's in the game at the start, but then he doesn't really show up again, at least as far as I can remember in Origins. Whereas, in Asylum, we see him at the start, and we don't really see him again until the end. As I said, he does have great boss fights, and I do actually like his character design and how the actual boss fights and stuff play in those games, but I don't think he's written well at all, really. And when we see him in Arkham Knight, his design is terrible. I do not like his design in that game, and just, it's a cool idea that he's older now and he's sort of more, I guess, savage, and he looks more like a crocodile, sure, but the design doesn't particularly fit him that much, even though that doesn't really make sense, because I know he is, a crocodile, but it's the design's a bit over the top, in my opinion. And I think Arkham Knight being the last game, they should have given him a much better send-off like they did with characters like Mr. Freeze. Coming in at number 3, I have Bane from Arkham Asylum, and to a lesser extent Arkham City, because he's not really in that game. In the last video on the best villains, if you haven't seen that one, as I said, please check it out, because I'm about to spoil one of the entries in that one. In Asylum and again City, Bane was in that video as one of the worst villains, one of the best villains, because of Arkham Origins. However, in the games that came before it, he is terrible. And I will just quickly restate what I said in that video. He is insanely stupid. He is treated as, a lot of video games do that now with the stronger characters. It's like they're strong, but they're stupid. And of course, we know, especially, and Origins even showed us that Bane isn't dumb, not even in this universe. He's just, I guess, in those games, they just had no idea how to write him. So they just, gave him a boss fight, had Batman beat him, and then we never see him again. Which not only is that a waste of his character, but the boss fight was bad as well, and his design is bad. Just everything about the character up until Origins was not done very well. And considering he wasn't in Arkham Knight, you could say it's just because he didn't have any place in the story, which, is true. However, I think he would have been a better final villain than Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight. Now, at number 2, I actually have Black Mask, and I have nothing against this character. However, the Arkham games don't really know how to incorporate him into their stories. We saw in Arkham Origins, it looked like he was going to be the big villain of that game, and spoiler alert for like a decade-old game, Black Mask ends up being the Joker. So, of course, people were excited because it was a new villain. In Arkham Asylum and City, the main villain was the Joker. And even in City, it sort of might not seem like he's the main villain because of Ra's al Ghul and Hugo Strange, but technically speaking, Joker is still the main villain in that game. And of course, we all love the Joker, but we want to see Batman's other villains be the main threat in at least a couple of the games. And of course, once we got to Origins, people were excited to see that, and especially a character like Black Mask, which is a character a lot of people don't really know about, especially people who, are only playing the games as because they're a casual Batman fan, so they wouldn't know about that character and a lot of other characters that Origins use, like Shiva, Firefly, Copperhead, Deathstroke, maybe to a lesser extent, more people know him, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So, in that game, he was good, but then of course we find out it wasn't him. And then you have a boss fight, and then I'm pretty sure he goes down in a single takedown, which is a bit embarrassing and very funny. But of course, in terms of actually writing the character, it's not great. And then in Arkham Knight, we don't see him until the Red Hood story DLC, which he actually has a very cool boss fight that I like a lot, but you have to shoot him like 50 times and that motherfucker just won't die. But he gets killed by Jason Todd, so yeah, they don't really know how to write him, if you ask me, but hopefully you can sort of see where I'm coming from. I don't hate the character, I like him a lot, but the Arkham games don't really utilize him very well. And in the number one spot, the worst villain in the Arkham games, in my opinion, is the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Knight is the worst villain simply because of how predictable the identity of the Arkham Knight is, and his motives are very stupid. You know, just to give you one example, he, of course, it's Jason Todd. He, of course, used to be Robin. He knows Batman won't kill, so why wouldn't he just put people in the tanks that Batman is going around shooting? Because then he can't do anything, right? He can't shoot those tanks because there's people in them, and if he shoots them, they're gonna die. So, of course, Rocksteady wanted us to use the Batmobile, so they found a convenient way to make Jason seem like a actual idiot, which they did. He looks like a dumbass, but either way, he is written very poorly. As I said, if he appeared in the other games for more than like a second, or like, you know, just a passing mention or something in the other games, then it would have sort of worked. But the fact that in this game he comes out of nowhere and they start like hinting at the fact that it's him. When I say hinting, I mean very obviously, basically just telling us that it is him. And then when he reveals it, it's so obvious, especially to people who know anything about the Batman character, at least, you know, read comics and are like a big fan of the character. Everyone knew who this was. And I feel like even people who aren't into Batman probably could have guessed who it was when Jason started showing up out of nowhere. But that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, please check out the last Batman video I did. But if not, consider subscribing. I'm making Batman Arkham videos every week. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.
So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the 5 best Batsuits in the Batman Arkham series. Straight away, hitting into the number 5 spot, I actually have the Batman Beyond suit from Batman Arkham Knight. The Arkham City suit is generally more popular, I've seen, amongst the community, but I actually prefer this one simply because, not to get any hate, but I don't really like the Arkham City one. I know that's how the outfit looks in the cartoon, but I'm just not a big fan of that look. I like the Arkham Knight take a lot more because it fits the game in my opinion, and also it's just a fun little what if to me, because there were rumors, of course, that they were working on a Batman Beyond game, and that's exactly what I would expect him to look like if they actually did make that game. Of course, you know, there's a lot more armor. You know, you can't actually see his face at all in this one. You can't really see any skin at all, and his eyes are red. Obviously the logo is red as well. It's just a very interesting look to me that I think would suit Batman a lot if, you know, Warner Brothers Montreal or Rocksteady ever did a Batman Beyond game. I think that would be a good look for him to have in that game. Now at number 4, I actually have another Arkham Knight skin, and that's the Michael Keaton 1989 Batman movie outfit from, again, I already said this, Arkham Knight. This skin to me looks amazing. It looks very, it looks exactly like it did in the movie. Like, it's very faithful. I wouldn't say remake, but it's just, it fits the world surprisingly well. There's a couple in the game, like the Adam West suit, that even though I love them, they don't really fit the game in my opinion. But this one, this one actually works, even though it has sort of a, because it was from the 80s movie, there are some parts of the suit that don't really look, I guess, threatening, but in a way it actually kind of works in this game, even though it does still look a little bit silly. I also like the fact that it comes with the car looks amazing as well. Overall, I just think the look of it when you're actually playing the game is really cool. When you're going around the city gliding or, you know, beating people up, it actually looks very cool and very slick in motion, which I wouldn't really expect from this outfit, but I'm actually pretty pleased to say it looks really good. Now at number 3, I have the 1970s Batsuit, only from Arkham City. For the Arkham Knight one, I don't like it at all, but in Arkham City, I think it's a lot better. Now the reason for that is because I think the art style of Arkham City works a lot better for this costume. And it's weird to say this, but the graphics not being as good in that game make it look better. The biggest thing to me is the coloring, like the blue in City looks better, but also the fact that it doesn't actually have pupils in that suit in City, which makes it look a lot more threatening and a lot cooler, and it makes it actually look like a comic book. The Arkham Knight version isn't too bad, but to me, the color blue is a little bit off, and also, again, you can actually see his pupils, which makes the costume a lot less threatening and doesn't really make it seem like the 1970s Batman suit and just the color overall, because when you see stuff from, blue Batman or 1970s Batman, it's always, he never has pupils. So I'm not too sure exactly why they added that. There might not be any, actually pupilless skins in this game, aside from the Batman Beyond one I just mentioned. So maybe they just didn't want to do that, and they were worried it would stand out. I could be wrong, there might be some pupilless ones, I don't remember, but still, it looks a lot better in Arkham City, especially because that game doesn't have as many costumes, and even though that game has a lot of really good ones, like the Default, the animated series, and the Green Lantern, or the Yellow Lantern, I should say, I do think that this is actually the best outfit in that game. Number 2 is going to the Arkham Origins base suit. I didn't actually mention this, but it isn't just variations and stuff. I actually am counting the base suit as well. And to me, the Arkham Origins suit is awesome, not only by design, but also because it has a neat little story to it. Because when we get to the later games in terms of story, so Asylum to Knight, he isn't wearing as much armor. I shouldn't really say that about Arkham Knight, but especially Asylum and City, he's not wearing much armor. Of course, in Knight, he kind of has to. But in Origins, it's the start of his career, he's 2 years in, and he has a lot of armor because, again, he's not as experienced in, all the fields he would later excel in. He's obviously he's not as prepared as he will be later on in the games coming, and even then, you see in games like Asylum and City, Joker can still mess with Batman and make the player feel sort of unprepared. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but in Origins, Batman's suit reflects the story and it reflects him as a character. And one thing that I actually like that the other games don't do, and it's sort of a strange thing, but the actual outfit is a lot lighter. It's like a grey colour instead of black, which I actually like a lot, and I think the armour looks a bit sort of, I wouldn't say battered, but it looks very like he's been in a lot of fights and just won those fights. That's sort of like the idea that I get from this suit. And this isn't really the suit, but his face in the game looks really good too. He's not very clean shaven. He's very he looks like he just solely focuses on fighting crime and has time for nothing else, which is something that would carry on through the rest of his career. But in this game, we get to see him act out a lot, and he's very aggressive when he takes people down, which is sort of funny, but which, I don't know, I might sound psychotic for that, but it is just a very cool way to show the Batman character in his early years. And for me, the best costume or skin, whatever you'd like to call it, in the Batman Arkham games is the original Arkham Asylum suit. This one was partially due to bias and nostalgia. This is of course, the first suit from the Arkham series. Arkham Asylum is my favourite in the series. So this is the skin that I've used the most, of course, not only because that game doesn't have any other skins aside from a armoured version of the Default, so technically there's no skins. This one, to me, I love it the most, again, because Arkham Asylum was the first in the series and it was the first one I played, but I like the cartoony feel to it, and that's something that the later games, especially Knight, didn't have as much, is that in this game, and City to a lesser extent, it feels like the animated series that the game was, I don't want to say based on, but loosely based on, because of course it had the same voice actors, and I think Asylum and City actually had the same writers, so yeah, that definitely helped. But the main reason that I like this suit is the color scheme, and also the graphics of Asylum make it look really good. I actually think it looks better on the 360 and PS3 over the Return to Arkham games on the PS4, and I'm pretty sure Return to Arkham was on Xbox as well. Yeah, I don't know, just the lighting just isn't as good. Like, the games look a lot brighter, which you wouldn't think would make it look worse, but it kind of does actually, especially, you know, in Asylum. I think the characters look cartoony. Like, they already looked cartoony, but they look bad cartoony, whereas in the original releases, they actually, because of the darker aesthetic and colouring of the actual world, they look a lot better there. But that's really all I have to say for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be making a video on the worst Batsuits in the Arkham games, and I'm making top 5, top 10 videos on the Arkham games moving forward. So if you enjoy those games, consider subscribing and giving me any ideas you have for videos would be really appreciated. Yeah, consider subscribing and leaving a like and share the video. Thank you for watching. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 worst Batsuits in the Batman Arkham series. This is all based on my opinion. I should state that just before we get into it. So coming into number 5, the 5th worst, in my opinion, is the Zur-En-Arrh skin from Batman Arkham Knight. This skin, I will state some positives. I think it stands out a lot, maybe not for the right reasons, but it's very unique and it is very different to the rest of the suits in the game, and I am aware it isn't a game original, it is from comics and stuff, but I can't really give it much praise because to me it just doesn't work. As I said, it is very colourful, but I just think it doesn't fit the world at all. I guess, I don't really want to call it armour, but the colour of, you know, the armour, the suit as a whole, like the purples, reds, orange, yellows, like it just does not work in my opinion. And with Arkham Knight's graphics and just the world in general, I don't think that this suit fits. I do not have too much to say about the suit. I just don't think it is one of Batman's best. Next up I have the Long Halloween skin from Arkham Origins. Now this skin, in my opinion, is pretty cool. However, in Arkham Origins, I don't think it looks very good. The shade of blue doesn't look very right, and the actual costume looks sort of rubbery and just, it wouldn't be something, like obviously criminals are afraid of Batman, but this is probably the least threatening one that you can wear in Origins, or one of at least. To me, the blue is just a weird color, and going along with Origins like graphics and stuff like that, it just doesn't really work. Like, I would prefer to pick basically any other skin over this one, and I would say it's one of, if not the worst skins in Arkham Origins. And third, I have Thrill Killer Batman, also from Arkham Origins. This one is just weird to me, and I don't know where this comes from. I assume it's from a comic or something. I'm actually not sure, but to me it doesn't fit the game at all, and I just don't like the colors of it. I think the yellow is too bright. It looks like orangey, and it just doesn't look that good. Like, when you're playing, in my opinion, the colors are kind of distracting. Not to the level of a skin like Zur-En-Arrh, but to me, when the actual costume is distracting and like stops you from enjoying the game, or this one isn't massively distracting, it's just, you know, when you're playing as Batman, you want to look cool, you want to like feel like you're Batman, and this isn't something I would expect Batman to wear. The reason I think it's worse than the last ones, as I said, is basically just for that reason. And with the other ones I just mentioned, I could see Batman wearing them in some type of story, just not in that one. But this outfit, I can't imagine working in any Batman story, whether that's a movie, a game, anything like that. So this one, in my opinion, is one of the weakest skins in the Arkham series. Now, this wasn't actually originally going to be on this list, but I went back to it and I have to put it on this list, unfortunately, and that's the 1970s suit from Arkham Knight. Now, in Arkham City, I think that this suit was actually really good. It was on my last video for some of the best Batsuits in the Arkham series, but in my opinion, they fumbled it so bad in Arkham Knight simply because they added pupils. And that might sound like a dumb reason to have him on this list, especially at second, but it's just so dumb, and I have no idea why they did this. The skin itself doesn't look that good in Arkham Knight. The graphics are very impressive in that game, and I think the 1970s Batsuit just doesn't really work in that world that much, especially with the color tone they went for. But having pupils makes it look so much worse. In Arkham City, it was more... It was based on the comics, obviously, so it's the Arkham Knight one, but in the comics, he didn't have pupils, and that made him more intimidating. which was important because when Batman's wearing, you know, light blue, he wouldn't be as, you know, for lack of a better word, scary to criminals. So him, you know, not being able to see his eyes makes him more threatening. But in this one, in Arkham Knight, I don't see people, you know, being that afraid of Batman if he's wearing this suit. Now, of course, he's Batman, so they're going to be at least a little scared, but I don't think that this suit works very well. If they at least got rid of the pupils and, you know, changed the shade of blue they went with, I think it could have worked a little better. But as I said, originally this wasn't going to be in the video, but I just had to put it there because it is really annoying to me. Now, in my opinion, the worst skin in the Arkham series is from Arkham Knight and is the anime Batsuit. What in the even fuck is that? I don't hate it. I should say that. I don't hate any in the Arkham series, but I don't know why this exists. Now, there might be like a Batman anime out there. I assume they didn't just make this up for no reason, because that'd be really random. And if it does exist, obviously I haven't seen it, but this design is just so bad. I really don't have anything to say about it aside from the fact that, I mean, the colors are right, is really all I can give it. I think it's weirdly at the same time, it's over detailed, but also like not. Like there's too much going on, but also not enough. It's just, and just the actual shape, just everything going on with it is just weird and sort of excessive, and I just don't understand why it's in the game over some of Batman's more iconic looks. Let me know which Batsuit you think is the worst in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing for more Batman Arkham videos, and I hope to see you in the next video.